Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up, everybody? Episode 136. Sports Card Nation back again. As always, glad to be back. And, like I say, 1 week closer to Chicago. But before we, we're not there yet, as excited as many of us are that are planning on attending the National. Was a good past weekend. Was honored to be part of Hobby Palooza twice, run by Bench Clear Media and Mike Moynihan, Tyler Wilson, Breaker Culture there. Hobby Hotline led off the festivities on Saturday morning. We had almost all our hosts on the screen, missing a couple. Unfortunately, everyone couldn't make it, but Dr. Beckett was there and had a good time. That hour went quick, especially with that many people on the screen, but good turnout, good chat, conversation there. And then this show did a special live version on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern with my buddies from Pack to the Future podcast, Chad, Ricky, and Tim. And Dr. Beckett joined us halfway through, and a lot of national talk and kind of current market talk, and again another hour that went by quick. Some great chat discussion. One of the hot button things going on in the chat room is whether this dip that we're seeing has affected the vintage side of the house, and some say yes indeed, and some say not really, or not to the same level as the modern or ultra modern. But I was just on Mike Moynihan's show. He pulled up, and that guy knows his vintage. Let's be real. And he pulled up a graph and a chart and a spreadsheet of probably his top 11 cards, and roughly down, 30 to 40%. And some are they're obviously very good cards. So if you ask Mike, he'll tell you it's a crash in the vintage side. He doesn't mince words about it, and not, he knows his stuff. So it's hard to argue that. And so whether you're a vintage person, you don't want to admit it, or you don't see it that way. I don't know, but it's a great. Let's put it this way: it's probably a good opportunity to buy some things in relatively to that crescendo pace that everything was on prior to the dip we're seeing now. And so it's a good buyer's market. The problem with me, or I don't want to say the problem, but I've actually kind of shut off my buying for the last 6 weeks with the anticipation to bring those funds to Chicago and spend it there. Now it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be spending opportunities. Our dealers going to price to what the market level's at, or are they going to hold out and overprice, or not even put stuff out and get rid of things at what market price is bearing? So many questions, so many interesting things at Chicago, and so it's going to be interesting. Sports Card Nation, this show has some main stage time. It'll be on Thursday, the 29th of July, Thursday the 29th. We'll have 30 minutes from 4 p.m. Central Time to 4:30 Central Time. So 4 to 4:30 Central Time. I've got an idea of what I'm going to do with that 30 minutes, but we've got to coordinate it with those I want to do it with to see if they're available and that sort of thing. Hobby Hotline has a time. Will be, looks like Sunday afternoon there, Chicago time, at noon. But that could be subject to change. The Sports Card Nation main stage time, 4 to 4:30. That is set in stone. The Hobby Hotline is, but we're if there's a cancellation or something, we're trying to get a little bit sooner than that. So stay tuned to that. But in any case, it's going to be fun. I hope to meet a lot of you in Chicago. Some for not the first time, and many for the first time. If you see me and you know me and you want to say hello, I'm a friendly guy. If you haven't figured that out, come up to me. I don't care what I'm doing, unless I'm like live recording, obviously. But under any other circumstance, come up and say hello, shake a hand, tell me what you like about the show, don't like about the show, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. I appreciate any and all that feedback. So you want to come up and give me a hello, Newman. I've never get that, so be a first time for everything. But all joking aside, I hope to meet a lot of you, and it's going to be a fun time. And I always say, if you're not having fun in this hobby, you got to reassess what you're doing and what approach you're taking, because you should be having fun. I know we have our bad moments and even our bad days or our bad experiences, but overall, you got to be enjoying this hobby. Otherwise, what are we doing? What are we doing in it? A hobby is supposed to be an outlet to everyday life and fun and enjoyable. So I hope you enjoy it in the same capacity I do. Speaking of enjoyable, great conversation today. He's been on the show twice before, but hasn't been on the show since we've come over to the Spreaker iHeartRadio platform. First time since the move, his third time on the show, and it's been, I don't know, at least over a year. I don't think it's been 2 years, but too long. Let's just put it that way. And so Mike Sommer from Waxpack Hero is our guest today, and we talk about, when he was last on, he hadn't started podcasting yet. And so we really touched on some, kind of compared notes to our observations. I asked him, obviously, as the guest of this show, some questions pertaining to content creation and work-life balance and all those kind of questions that revolve around that genre. And we talked some hobby, we talked some national as well. It was great having him on. Quite frankly, too long between appearances. If I have anything to do with it, it won't be that long again when he comes back. So glad to have him on the program. Very intelligent, very, he's got his finger on the pulse, as I use that saying all the time, but he does, and very passionate. He loves the hobby, and you can't ask for much more than that. So glad to have Mike back on. And so let's the longer I talk, the longer it is to get to that interview. So with that being said, let's get this show started.
Here we go.
Time for this week's
Incoming!
product releases. All right, it's me. Surprise. We've been having some guests do the new release announcing, but it's me this week. We had a couple people not get back to me in time, so you get old me. All right. On release day, today, if you're listening to the show on release day, which is the 16th of July, we have 2021 Topps Gypsy Queen Baseball. We have 2021 Panini Donruss Elite Football. We have 2021 Panini Chronicles Racing. That ought to be interesting. On the 20th, we have 2021 Leaf Flash Football. On the 21st, we have 2020-21 Topps Merlin Chrome Soccer. Also on the 21st, we have 2021 Topps Clearly Authentic Baseball. One of my favorite products. However, I don't open it. I just buy what singles I sort of like when I get some steals and deals on that. 2021 Upper Deck AHL hockey. On the 23rd, we have 2021 Sage Aspire football. Also on the 23rd, 2020-21, Panini Clearly Donruss basketball. I'm a sucker for acetate cards, easy for you to say. Also on the 23rd, we have 2021 Wild Card Mat Football Mega. And that wraps up this week's releases. Remember, with the pandemic still ongoing, some of these could be subject to delay. But some definite interesting product coming out this week. Also wanted to add, if you would like to announce the new releases, as I just did, we are looking for volunteers. It does not pay very well at all, but if you want to get on a podcast and hear your voice and do it in your own funny niche way, I am looking for people to come on and do that. I think it's a great way to be interactive and reach out and get people who maybe listen and like the show and get them on it. So if interested, get a hold of me any way you can. Social media, email, text the show line, whatever you need to do, we'd love to have you do it.
The Sports Card Shop is your small-town local card shop with a global reach. Located in New Buffalo, Michigan, the shop is one of the most accessible in the Midwest. In addition to being an authorized Panini direct dealer, the Sports Card Shop carries all major trading card brands, including Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and more. With all that new wax, 500,000 singles, and showcases full of graded cards, you're sure to find something great for your collection, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned collector. The Sports Card Shop is your one-stop shop. So call us, come see us, or visit us on the web and social media. Our phone number is 269-469-0140. Website is thesportscardshop@moco.com. The Sports Card Shop is part of the Moco Retail Group, connecting sports, the hobby, and people around the world.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, if you guessed there's going to be some national news the next couple weeks in the Hobby What's Up section of the show, you guessed right. Let's start with some of the grading company price levels as they start to release their submission prices for the show floor. Let's start with PSA. Not cheap. Better get your credit card or your checkbook out. $250 for cards $5,000 or less in value. $600 for above that. I believe it will be same-day service, though. I would sure hope so for that price.
You like that? You like that? You like that?
I do not like that. That's definitely pricey. And obviously, folks, I get it. If you're spending that much on a card to get it graded, it's a huge monster of a card. I understand that. But again, for those of us that like to pay, $20-$30 or even $50 or $100, right? That blows that right out of the water. But again, this is not rocket science, right? PSA don't want those cards. They're going to let the other companies right now deal with those cards, and that's where this strategy comes in. So what is CSG doing? Recently acquired with some investment money. They've raised their prices, not to the PSA astronomical level, but they're going to be $50 a card, and that card has to be under $1,000 value. So another requirement with CSG is you must be a member in their submission club. So you can't just walk up as a non-member and submit. So you have to, I forgot what the fee is, $25, $50 to be a member, and then it's going to be $50 a card under $1,000. Reached out to Peter Steinberg from SGC. They will release their numbers next week. So by next episode, you'll hear me talking about what they're planning on doing. By now, you've heard the rumor that a group led by Alex Rodriguez are trying to purchase Panini. But Panini is not a public or on Wall Street, so it would have to be the same route Topps took, right? Become a SPAC, initial IPO, and then take it to market. But the rumor is a group led by Alex Rodriguez wants to be the ownership group involving Panini. I hear a lot of people, posting almost like it's a done deal already. I've seen other people say this will be the best thing for Panini. I don't see it. I gotta respectfully disagree. I don't think it's going to be change the game. Someone called it a game changer. Just going to be a new ownership if it even happens. And if you know anything about Alex Rodriguez, and I'm a baseball fan, someone said, oh, there'll be a lot more signatures in the product. There'll be, he'll reach out to a lot of his buddies. Alex Rodriguez, if you know anything about his story and his personality, he is not very liked by players he played with and players in the league, right? This is a guy that running from second to third on a pop-up, right? Kind of yelled boo. Took a lot of heat for that. He's not a well-liked guy. So I don't think this is some, revelation where if he does, his group takes ownership that all these people are going to come out of the woodwork and sign and all his buddies. I don't see it. Money talks, obviously, right? They don't care whether they liked Alex Rodriguez during his playing days or not. If someone gets paid enough, they'll sign autographs. That's the bottom line. Whether it's you that owns it, me that owns it, or Alex Rodriguez owns it. And so, and if they purchase the company, they have to be frugal. They got to watch what they spend. So I don't think, the game changer call that I hear some people saying, I'm getting off at a different bus stop there. Will be interesting to say the least, for sure. Be very, very interesting. But I just don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Someone else said, well, maybe they can get the baseball license with Alex Rodriguez, heading that up. I don't think it makes a difference that his name's attached, whether they get a license or not, which don't look like they are in the foreseeable future. So I think it's just someone else is going to own Panini if it happens, and that's doubtful as well. So I think it's much to do about nothing, but we'll see how the story does develop. Seems like every week now, talking about money, there's more investment groups putting seed investment money into a lot of these upstart companies. This week, no different. Let's start with Cardbase. They're a online app that inventories your cards and puts a valuation on them. They have a website and they also have an app. And their investment group is led by Peter Thiel, Marcus Lemonis, and Lucas Mast. And they've recently put some money into investment money into Cardbase to expand their operations and grow that platform. And Alt, the alternative, hence the name Alt, investment platform, are making the claim that they have the most expensive card ever with the Steph Curry 2009-2010 National Treasures 101 rookie RPA logo man. But there's some issues there, okay? They bought a 51% stake, so they paid half, and they're getting that $5.9 million valuation based on the 51% they paid. It hasn't been paid in full. No one's bought it outright, and so a lot of people are pointing to that and saying this is not a transaction where the card's sold and exchanged complete possession. So, it's a debate who's the record holder. Is it the Curry? Is it, the Mantle, the Trout, right? It's a lot of debate, but this is not a full, complete transaction. But, these are what these companies are going to do. They want to hang their hat on something, and Alt paid a few $1,000,000, almost probably, if you do math, right, pretty much about $3 million for a 51% stake in the 2009-10 Logo Man RPA Curry. And so based on that half valuation, they double it and said, hey, this is what this card's value is. And I personally don't think you can do that. To me, it's like eBay comps, right? It's what the whole card sells for. When someone purchases that card from someone else. Now, I'm not saying that the transaction has to take place on eBay to be legitimate. A lot of transactions happen not on eBay, probably more than on it, as many as are on it. But to me, a whole transaction has to take place. You can't buy half of a card plus 1%. And then say that's what the valuation is. So that's my take, and I think a lot of people are pointing to that same rationale. All right, Upper Deck has announced they are doing a promotion at the National. If you purchase a 2021 Upper Deck box from any certified diamond dealer, you will get a summer promo pack at their booth. These cards are exclusive to the National, so buy any Upper Deck 2021 box from a certified diamond dealer, get that voucher, bring it to the Upper Deck booth, and you'll get that summer promo pack. And one last story, sort of a bittersweet one. A gentleman named Scott Weaver, who has, I believe, stage 3 cancer, not a great prognosis. I believe in the report I read, he has 2 young daughters, and as any dad would, worry about, if they don't survive something they're dealing with, how will their family be? Well, Mr. Weaver happened to pull a few years back a Tom Brady rookie contenders auto. Got it graded. I think he got a 7.5 Beckett grading. Has had the card. It actually got stolen at one point, and he got it back. And now he's given it to Heartland's auction for auctioning off, and that money will obviously go to his family. So I don't know how many people listening to this podcast can pull the trigger on that kind of card, but something to think about there while this gentleman fights a tough cancer battle, and hopefully he gets through it and comes out okay. But thinking about his family and selling that card to help his family out.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Sports Card Nation! It's now time to chop it up with our featured guest on the one-of-one card shop guest line. Let's go!
Real happy to have my next guest on the Sports Card Nation podcast. I consider him a friend. He's been on the show twice already, but unfortunately, I don't know how this happened. The last time was in May of 2019, so long overdue. And when we had him on last, Wax Pack Hero wasn't even born yet in podcast form anyway, and now it has, doing very well. And obviously want to talk about that amongst other things going on in the hobby. Mike Sommer, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, I should say.
Thank you for having me back, John. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been too long. We get a chance to chat every now and then anyway, outside of our independent shows. But it's great to be back on the show with you.
Yeah, and in my defense, I'm old, so maybe I view those conversations. I can't tell the difference that we're not on the show. So when we have those conversations in whatever form, verbal or text, I almost feel like we're doing the show. So maybe I'll use that as a really weak defense to why it's been that long. But here you are. The last time, like I said, we had you on. You had the blog, and you were building the brand. You've done a great job with that. Now you're doing the show, Wax Pack Hero, with Mike Sommer. I enjoy it, as many others do. How long's it been since launch? I'm bad with always certain dates, but with my own, I struggle. So I'll ask you.
Yeah, so I launched the podcast in December of 2019, and so it's been going on a year and a half now that the show's been live, and it's been a lot of fun to do so far, and it continues to evolve and grow and change, and I try to do some things based on listener feedback and that type of thing, and what I enjoy. But it's been a blast to do so far.
You're a smart guy, so nothing probably caught you super off guard or probably surprised you to a high level. But what's been, a year and a half of doing it now? If you had to pick, what was the biggest thing that surprised you about, or I didn't really realize that, and it is like that? Like, what would you say?
I think the biggest thing, I'd say the biggest shift that I had is when I first started it, I was doing 2 episodes a week because I had so many ideas of things that I wanted to cover, things I wanted to talk about. And I was rolling out 2 episodes a week, and they were all at that point pretty much just me. They were all kind of the way that you do Hobby Quick Hits, right? It was just you and a topic. And that was what I was doing, me and a topic. And after a few months of that, I kind of realized, you know what? I enjoy the conversational aspect as well. And so I had also kind of pivoted to doing just weekly, and I also incorporate a lot more interviews and conversations now than I did at the beginning. And I have I don't know, it's not exactly 50-50, but maybe roughly 50-50 split between solo episodes where I'm just covering a topic and interview conversations. And so it kind of surprised me how much I enjoyed that interview conversational aspect as well. And so that was a pretty big shift for me.
Yeah, you do, and like I said, you do a great job. Kudos to you there. You're a dad. I'm a dad. A little bit different. My son being 21. You have 2 younger daughters. Speak to the balance. We talk about balance. I know I've done shows about it. Kind of speak to your balance for being a husband, a dad, and a content creator. Like, has it changed? I'll ask the sort of 2-part. Has it changed? I know like you said, you went from 2 shows to just one, maybe a bigger one, if you will. Besides that, and that may not even be pertaining to having anything to do with being a family man, but have you changed? How do you balance that and anything that you've done because of that? Maybe you would be different. My son's 21, so he's not here often. So I it gives me a little more freedom. If he was, let's say, 10 again, 11, it definitely would be. Honestly, I don't know if I'd be able to do what I do. So I've rambled on, but I'll let you kind of speak to your end of things there.
Yeah, balance is key, and it's so important. That's something that I will often ask people about when I'm having that conversation. I know people are involved in multiple aspects. When I was first picking your brain about even starting the podcast and that type of thing, way back before we even started, that was one of the first warnings that you even gave me was, hey, make sure you keep family first, make sure you keep that proper balance and alignment. And that's something that I think about a lot. And I think about, how do I do that? Because it's not just the content creation for me, right? It's the written stuff on, well, I guess I shouldn't say it's just not just podcast. There's also the written things that I'm trying to put together on the blog. There's the online sales and the filling orders and things like that. And now, as of last fall, late summer, there's the physical shop that I do. And how do I keep all of those things in balance? It's something that I have to think about a lot. I'm fortunate from one aspect to be an early riser. And so my family often doesn't get up until, 8 o'clock on the weekends or whatever it might be, but I'm up at 5. And so before you and I talked here early, I had already recorded a podcast episode and had that ready to go. Now you and I are having this conversation and the rest of my family is still sleeping, and so there's things like that, and I've also filled the Sport Lots and eBay orders that came in overnight. And I've taken care of all of those things here before the family even wakes up. And so that has been a big blessing to me, is that I'm an early riser, on the weekends, especially my family is sleeping in. And so I'm able to take care of a lot of those things early on in the morning. My shop is only open from noon to 4 on Saturday and Sundays. Oftentimes I'll have one or both of my girls come and help me out, and we'll spend some time as we're sorting cards or whatever, and we'll have conversations there as well. It's 4 hours, in the middle of the day. I'm still there in the evenings. We're still able to do things as a family that way. But it is definitely one of those things that I have to be intentional about to keep the right balance. There's definitely times through all that it's been a week or two since I put out a blog article. I need to make sure that I get one of those scheduled or get one of those ready to roll. And so there's definitely some times where that kind of stuff has slipped. I just got back from having a vacation, and that means that, some of that written content went a little bit longer, between posts and that type of thing. But it's definitely something that I try to keep a focus on.
I don't know where you're sleeping, but you've got, like you said, you've got a system. I think that's half the battle right there. I think a lot of people kind of sort of fly by the seat of the pants. That's where you can get maybe in a little trouble or get a little bit off track, if you will. You got a system that works for your family dynamic and content creation. We're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our great sponsors, One of One Card Shop. But right after that, we'll be back with more from Mike Sommer.
What doesn't One of One Card Shop do? From box, case, and personal breaks, there's always fire being pulled. They offer bulk grading subs, and their large store located in Strongsville, Ohio, offers an incredible selection of sports cards, non-sports, and authentic autographed memorabilia. Steve and family will treat you right. Check them out on Instagram at One of One Card Shop or on the web at oneofonecardshop.com.
Welcome back to Sports Card Nation. We are back again with Mike Sommer. Sort of a hot seat question. You got the store now. I definitely want to touch on that and some further questions here. But you got the store, you do the blog, you got the podcast. If you had to, fortunately you don't have to, but hypothetically, if you had to give up one of the things you do hobby-wise, what would you pick and why?
Yeah, that is a good question. If I had to give up one, I think probably the physical store would be what I would give up first. That's the last thing that's been added. The current structure and the setup that we've got, it's kind of a shop within a shop setup. And so I also don't have any kind of long-term commitment, any of those types of infrastructure commitments that would keep that going. The other logic between that is the online sales are a lot more flexible in my own time of when I fill those orders, how much I list, how often what I put on vacation mode or not vacation mode. There's a lot more flexibility that comes with the online sales, and I could take all of that physical inventory that I've got at the shop and eventually sell through that online. And so if I had to pull the plug on something, it would probably be the physical shop first.
If I was going to guess which one, I thought you might say that for many of the reasons you did. And so, that's one of the reasons I asked you. The nice thing is it's a hypothetical question. You don't necessarily have to do it. It's good for conversation for shows like this and whatnot. And we didn't do that on purpose, but I want to segue into being an LCS owner. It worked out good, again, doing that now for, the time you have. A sort of similar question to content creation. What's been the biggest surprise? What did you kind of I didn't see that coming. Not that you can't deal with it, pivot with it, but what kind of, maybe a little bit unexpected or you didn't realize something?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I wouldn't say it's as much of a surprise because I had been doing shows for so long and interacting with people in the past. A lot of the inventory that I've got at the shop is similar in category, I guess, to the things that they had at the shows. I think the thing that surprised me the most, or that I've grown in the most, is buying collections. I've always kind of done that, but that act of negotiation, that act of quickly assessing an overall value of a collection that somebody brings into the shop for me, that's something that I've kind of grown in the most. I wasn't sure how much of that walk-in type business would come in. And so that surprised me a little bit of how much of that walk-in collection type of business has come in. And to be honest, I wasn't sure how much business I would do only being open 8 hours a week. I'm pretty much only open from noon to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. And I wasn't sure with that relatively small 8-hour window, how much business would I really do. And I've been pleasantly surprised at the level of volume of sales that have come in just during that relatively short window.
And you're part of sort of like a sublease. There's a front part of the store, and there's another person that runs that, right? Are they open during the week?
Yeah, so I call it a shop within a shop. There's a main LCS that's in our town that's been open for 10 or 15 years or something like that. And he's open 7 days a week. He does a lot of Magic the Gathering tournaments and hosts those tournaments as well. And so at some point a few years ago, he took over the neighboring storefront and kind of tore down the wall that was in between them. And this other section was pretty much all open, used for those events. But there was a section at the front of that storefront that was more of like the foyer or lobby with a small office that the other business had used in the past. And that area is kind of segregated from the rest of the area there. And that is the part of the store that is now dedicated to me. And so, so he's open 7 days a week and he has all that normal traffic, but he doesn't sell any of my stuff. When I'm not there, my stuff is not available for sale. It's kind of separate.
I was going to ask you that. Can someone go in there, maybe see something, and he facilitate a transaction on your behalf, even though it's not Saturday or Sunday?
No, we don't have it set up like that. So my stuff is not, it's kind of nice that it's in that segregated area. There's not really any activity on that half of the store unless I'm there.
Yeah. Okay. Terminology is sort of what it is. They're just words, but we've seen prices come down pretty much across the board, whether it's wax or singles or graded cards. It's nothing's not been affected in that way. I don't think it's a bad thing. Some may not agree wholeheartedly with that. I think it's healthy. Everything can't go up at a trajectory that we were seeing. Have you noticed that? I know you do, like you said, you do a lot of transacting, even in the online side of things. So have you noticed any difference in the LCS sector from that? If you weren't online, let's say, I know you are, but if you weren't, could you tell just from even the weekend that there's sort of been a temperature cooling, if you will?
I think there's, people aren't just blindly buying anything and everything now, to some extent. I'm a little bit insulated from some of those effects because a lot of my focus is more on the low and mid end type of thing. I've got a lot of quarter boxes, dollar box type items, and those base cards and inserts of some of those stars like that, they're still selling. People, aren't worried about a 30% reduction in price for something that's $1.25 down to $1, right? And so I still am selling plenty of that low to mid end things. So I haven't, based on my inventory, I have not felt some of those main things. I'm not in a situation where I'm buying high end stuff, or, I'm not in some of those situations that some people are paying 75, 80% of eBay on some big cards. And when they bought at the peak, even at 80%, they're feeling that hurt now, right? Like that's not the situation that I've been facing. Probably the only thing that I have, I'm not getting as many questions about if I have some of those high end cards in stock. And
Yeah.
so that's probably been the biggest thing when it comes to some of that pullback.
Being an LCS owner, as you know, I was back in the 90s, a long time ago. Has that changed how you approach cards? Like now doing that, even outside of the store, has that really changed your mindset or approach just to cards in general?
I don't think so. I think if anything, it's just expanded the opportunity for me to add cards to my own collection, right? I think it would be a different answer if this was a full-time endeavor for me, but it's kind of a side hustle for me, right? I've got a career, a 9 to 5 that I do, and that is my main focus, right? But the cards, and whether it's content or the buying and selling, whether that's online or the LCS, that's all kind of a side hustle for me, right? So it's still kind of nice to make a little extra money on the side, but it also just has further enabled me to add some cards to my PC. So earlier this summer, one of those, I ended up buying a Jordan rookie, Fleer Jordan rookie, which is one of those kind of lifetime cards that I've always wanted. Was able to use some profits from card sales at the shop to be able to pick up that Jordan rookie. And so it's just kind of further expanded my ability to collect.
Good answer. And it's true. And, you know, you're smart guys. I love asking questions like that to sort of get your, you know, does it change you? You know, speaking of change, you know, I know we sort of, I don't want to make it it's not politics. We have different opinions, let's just put it that way, on the graded card market, the graded card sector. But one thing I appreciate, and I'm like this too, I'll say, hey, I've changed my mind. When the Topps 2020 project first came out, I was sort of lukewarm on it. Then I saw it and really warmed up to it, had many of the artists on the show itself. And so I'll admit, like, hey, I did a lot better than I predicted it. One thing I appreciate about you and truthfully both of us, if I may pat myself, is we're the kind of guys that say, hey, I was wrong. I've heard you say, hey, when I said this on this show, and hey, I was wrong. Well, I'm human. We're human. And I appreciate that you're like me in that respect. Hey, I got that wrong. And now looking back and I'm not saying you love grading. And quite frankly, I speak about some of the ills and warts. It's not, all, sweet classical music and nothing wrong. I think the last few months have illustrated some of those warts, even more so than already. But I've heard you say, like, well, I'm not, it's not my thing really. I see some value in certain aspects of it. Maybe not across the board. I'm not writing a blank check for it, but I've kind of come off my sort of stance I was on and see a little bit of the resource in it or the value in it in certain situations. I appreciate that as someone who likes grading. I won't even argue with you. Like I said, some of the negatives, they are what they are. And some of the companies themselves are responsible for, it's sort of a self-inflicted wound, if you will. Just kind of speak to where you were, Drake song and now you're here type of deal.
Yeah. My biggest issue with grading, or I guess maybe I should say that the couple biggest issues that I was having with grading was there was a segment of the hobby community that seemed to be indicating that grading was the only way to collect. And if you weren't grading, you're an idiot for not grading. Nobody cares about anything that's not graded. Grading. And I feel strongly that grading is not the only way to collect. There are people that enjoy base cards. There are people that enjoyed set building and those types of things. And you don't necessarily need to grade to enjoy those types of cards. The other caution that I had was because of some of that perception of people that were coming into the hobby. There was a multiple being given to graded cards, especially like base cards, that there were thousands and thousands and thousands of even 9s and 9.5s and 10s. There's a multiple being given to those cards that seem to not align with the true maybe value that we're seeing. It was you couldn't argue at the time. The market was the market. I know you and I had conversations. Hey, I sold this card. I mean, there's people are willing to pay for it, and I'm not going to turn away that free money. And that was some of the concern is there are people paying or being willing to pay multiples for some of these graded cards that didn't seem to be justified. And I was concerned with the long-term value. Now, if somebody was going to buy and hold that because that's what they like for their PC, great, and you're definitely willing to do that. But I felt like there was the caution that I was trying to give is to some of the newer entrants to the market that were just buying whatever and paying whatever, that they might want to think a little more critically about the multiples that they were giving to some of those graded cards. There's room. I've said there's room for graded cards. There's especially in vintage, there's that level of, while it's not perfect, there is a greater level of authenticity that can be given. I mean, for instance, the Jordan rookie that I got is here in a PSA holder, and part of the reason is because of how often that card is counterfeited, and wanted to have a little more confidence in the one that I was buying that it was going to be legit. And so I think, especially from a vintage perspective, some of those highly counterfeited cards, that there is definitely a place for grading to play a role in that, while not perfect, providing a little bit of a greater level of authenticity when it comes to that. But it was more, my biggest issue was the people who felt like that was the only way, that we're trying and sharing that, hey, it's 100% confident that there's nothing, that you can trust everything about these grading companies. It was really trying to, temper expectations a little bit with that not everything has to be graded. There's a time and a place for that where that makes sense, but it doesn't have to be everything. And it definitely doesn't mean that something is going to be worth a 10x multiplier for something where there's 10,000 graded copies of that exact card.
I agree with everything you said. You made some great points. All right, we're going to take a quick step aside to hear from a great sponsor, Pastime Marketplace, that makes some of the greatest cases to hold some of the greatest cards.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
We are back with Mike Sommer from Wax Pack Hero. There's people who are like, I like grading, I submit, I buy graded cards, I sell graded cards. But you make a great point, and I hope people don't lose the sight of that, that if you don't want graded cards, you can hobby any way you like to. That's the beauty of what this hobby is about. I think when it comes to grading, it's such a hot button thing. Like, people grab a flag and they don't want to see the other side of the aisle. It's great. My stance has always been like, it's a huge part of the hobby. You don't have to do it. You don't have to like it. There's certain things I don't like, and I'd love to change about it with a magic wand if there was such a thing. But it is a huge part. It even, I've always said this, even if you don't like grading, you don't collect graded cards, you don't buy graded cards, you don't even, you know what I mean? You don't deal in them in any sort of fashion. They do have an effect even on those raw and base cards, unslabbed. Like it or not, there is a trickle down effect. And my thing is, we have to acknowledge that, even if you're a non-grading person, if you will, if that's such a term. But the aspect of grading is affecting even the non-graded portion of the hobby. And I've never, only speaking for myself, as much as I do enjoy the graded aspect of the hobby, I've always said hobby your way, whatever way you do it, as long as it's legal and you're not hurting anyone or ripping anyone off, there's no wrong way to hobby. I guess the vitriol, the one thing that always gets me, Mike, is some of the vitriol, both sides, it works both ways. There's people in the graded side, like you said, you pointed it out, that are just rude and disrespectful to folks that don't like grading or don't do it and choose not to. And the other way, like, you're dumb, you know what I mean? And I think we need to find that middle that, hey, you don't do it, I do. We're still both in this hobby. We're still in the fraternity together. We just, live in different houses on campus, if you will. And we can still get along and, do keg stands on Fridays and Saturday nights. And, but that's sort of where I feel, I appreciate, like I said, leading into this question, you've used that intelligence, while you don't necessarily love it, or certain aspects you don't like, you do acknowledge that it, in some capacity, it is a necessary need of a hobby, like you said, especially on some of the vintage cards, and even modern day cards we're seeing now, like the Trout updates that, I've talked about on a show. I had a dealer friend of mine buy 10 copy of those, sort of before the last sort of rise of it. I mean, it was still expensive, but before it really went through that next level, he had bought 10 copies. And, before he sent them in, he had me look at, what do you think? And I said, man, to just the naked eye test, they look pretty good, but I'm not going to, put my complete stamp of approval. I'm just got them in my hand. I'm not even using magnification, but to that eye test, they look all right. And he sent those 10 in. He literally got 3 back graded and 7 as Fugazis, as fakes. And so, I'll stick up for the person who's sold the lot to him. I don't believe they knew. I think they bought them from somebody. I think they weren't knowingly passing them off. It's almost like a counterfeit bill you get out of a register when you pay. I don't think they knew that it was counterfeit. I think they were just selling 10 Trout rookies, and he got 3 back graded. I think he wound up getting 1 10 and 2 9s, if my memory serves me correct, and 7, not slab saying sorry. You got some really nice looking cardboard that's not real. And, that's, we could debate. He still did all right with the grades of the 3, depending on what he paid. But, he also got 7 fake cards. And that's where I think grading, I always tell people on my show, Mike, when I buy a Trout update, I really almost, maybe because of that experience, because I was sort of on the front lines of that story, I won't even buy a graded Trout, an ungraded Trout rookie at this point. I'd be almost too gun shy, or unless I arrange, like, hey, I'll buy this raw, I'm going to get it graded, and if it comes back, if I knew the person, we could reverse that sort of, caveat. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm interested when it comes to grading. I'm really interested to see how things play out over this next year to 2, right? I mean, it was so hot. We had all these backlogs from Beckett and PSA, and that spawned the rise of 5 or 6 more, it seems, new grading companies springing up. PSA shut down for a while, accepting so they could work through that backlog. They're starting to slowly open back up at this point. Beckett has done the same thing with hopes to reopen here soon. But this isn't the first time we've seen that, right? If you've been around, we saw early on 20 years ago a whole bunch of grading companies. You'll see some slabs of, what is that company? I've never heard of that. Like, this isn't
Black
the first
Mamba,
time.
You don't like Black Mamba grading,
right?
There's their free advertising right there. But go ahead.
We have seen some of these. We have seen a situation where there was a whole bunch of companies slapping a label on a graded card or calling it graded, whatever. And those don't have any value at this point in the future, or, 20, 25 years later. I'm interested to see what we're going to run into. I've heard a couple of podcasts this week, even, who the hosts were big into grading, and they had they've got hundreds of cards waiting to get back that they had sent in 6 or 9 months ago. And they were even saying, I wish I could just tell some of these companies, don't grade my cards. You just keep them. Don't even send them back to me. I don't even care about getting them graded anymore, because it was that mindset of, I'm going to open this box and send every single card in to get graded. And we're starting to see some of that pullback that we were talking about earlier. And for some of those cards that are sitting there waiting to be graded, they may not get back the value that they're paying to get graded at this point. And so as this starts to play out, as those backlogs get worked through, as people start to get more and more cards graded from some of these new startups, some of which are more legitimate than others, right? It's going to be interesting to see how this whole dynamic plays out, both from a hobby perspective and a business perspective. I sometimes think that this whole era we're in over the last couple of years could make a great Harvard Business Review at some point of how to navigate a spike in a market from many different angles, and from a business perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, from an outside influence, from economic factors, from outside. Like, there's just so much to this hobby story that we've experienced over these last couple of years. It's going to be interesting to see it play out.
Yeah, it's arguably, Mike, it's a great point. I think it's arguably going to be like the two greatest years maybe in hobby history. And but even in that segment, you can point to some negative things too. Just because they were great years overall, there's some things, some lessons to be learned on the negative or bad side. You mentioned a great point. I'm guilty of this myself. I've sent stuff in to grading. They're there 5-6 months, and by the time I get that card back, let's say, I'm like, I wouldn't have sent that. Like, if it was today, like, I got it back graded now, but if it was today, that card would have never been mailed to that grading company. And so I know exactly that. You make another point, with the rise, one of the reasons there's a backlog is because people are sending everything and anything almost. My take is, hey, if you're paying for that, that's your right. I don't, it may not make sense to me or you, but it's their card. But we're, the term, I'm sure you've heard it, right? The junks, we might be seeing the junk slab era. I think you touched on that. Is, what do you have when there's 10,000 9s or 10s of that particular card, a player and brand, right? There's no scarcity there. People argue that even, I remember, back in the day, collecting and being a hobby, you got a card that said it was numbered to 35,000. You're like, I got a numbered card, right? Today, you get a card numbered to 30. They don't even make them, number one. And number two, if they did, you'd be like, what's that? Like, big deal. Oh, okay. So you can see how the dynamic has changed. And I love a graded card as much as the next guy, but let's be honest. The value comes from how many of this fit that category. That's what the card's gonna be worth. So when you send it in, like you said, you sent it in on one pretext, and you get it back on another. I've been in that category myself. So to say that isn't true would be disingenuous. It is, and now we're seeing when all these cards, and they are starting to come back, it's going to be an influx of slabs on the market. And to say that's not going to have an effect, then you're just not telling the truth. And that's coming from someone who likes the grading card industry. To say otherwise is just not being honest about it. So we'll see. Like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how this all sort of play. I think we're starting to see that with some of these price corrections, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the other piece of this that I am going to enjoy, because I enjoy learning, right? And I enjoy observing. The other thing that I kind of like about the correction that we're seeing is it's going to span graded cards, ungraded cards, content creation. It's going to span this whole range of sports card topics, but it's going to force people to think a little more critically about how they approach buying, selling, and that type of thing, right? I mean,
Another quick break to hear from one of our national sponsors, but we'll be right back with more from Mike Sommer. We are back with Mike Sommer.
it was one thing when, for the last couple of years, you kind of really had to screw up to not be able to make money, right?
It's true, though. I laugh because
I could grade a card for $10, and it was going to be real hard to not at least get that $10 back, right? But now when it might be $75 or $100 or $200, I'm going to have to think a lot more about the strategy of what I get graded. Same thing from buying collections like I often do, right? There was a while there, it's like pretty much I could buy about anything and pay it, not think really critically about the price I was paying, and know that the prices were going up or had been going up so fast that I was going to be able to profit from that. And I'd have a lot more cushion because prices were just going up so fast. But now you have to think a lot more critically about, what am I paying? How much can I get from this? Hey, it's not just this price has been going up every month, but prices have been starting to come down. So even if I pay 75% of comps right now, if it goes down 10% for another 2 or 3 months straight, I might still be hurting at that point, right? And so we're going to have to think across the board a lot more critically about buying and selling and being profitable. I think we're already starting to see a lot fewer pieces of content of, look, I bought this card and 1 month later I doubled or tripled my money. We're not seeing that type of stuff right now, near the same level that we were in the past. I think some of the people who are quote unquote experts over these last couple of years, some of the true nature of their business acumen and their ability to be profitable buying and selling is really going to start to bubble up, and the cream's going to rise to the top, over these next couple of years. And it's going to be interesting to me to watch and learn these based on these different strategies and different approaches that people have.
I laughed because it was so true what you said, and it took me back to, I remember, so I think it was Twitter, you posted, hey, people are going to really have to work to earn money now in the hobby, and it was bingo. It was like you couldn't, however you were. I think I liked it. I might have retweeted it. I know I liked it, and it was exactly the truth. And I'm like, and listen, we've all probably have benefited from that crescendo, and nothing to apologize for. If you're in the hobby and that's what the hobby's do, and you kind of sort of go with the flow, just natural human nature. But when I read that, I'm like, he's right. What we're seeing now is you can't just print your own money out by all these transactions. You're going to really have to be a little more strategic and sort of put on that thinking cap and, hey, what potentially could happen here? Or if I buy it for this, I might lose or not, or maybe just break even if you're in the business of selling. And but I also think, and I think you'll agree, I also think that's healthy too. I don't think that's a bad thing for someone like me, and you've been in the hobby a long time. I'm not leaving, not willingly. I'll put it that way. And I think that's good as someone who looks at things, puts in the work. I think it sort of evens the playing field, if you will. I think before, and again, I've benefited from that crescendo, but it made it real easy for everybody. Now, I'm not trying to be cocky here, but someone who's done this a long time, and even in the retail side, I think that gives me, I don't, like you said, I don't believe in experts. I think we're different levels of experiences. I've been wrong many times. So whatever that expert level I'm on or not on, I think the experience is going to sort of level that playing field. It's more fun. I think you take pride in when you make a decision when it's not as easy, and then it comes out in your favor. Then if everything you do turns to gold, there's, as much as that's fun, I think you take more pride when it's not that easy, and it does happen.
Yeah, I think there's that entrepreneurial spirit, right? If you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, you take pride and satisfaction in finding ways to succeed, right? And if you're willing, I always say, if you're willing to adapt and grow and observe and learn, there's never going to be a shortage of opportunities to succeed in this business, right? But it might mean you have to buy and sell differently. It might mean you have to market your cards differently. It might mean you have to change or switch the platforms that you sell on, to take advantage of where the market's going. But as long as you're willing to do that, and as long as you find it fun to try to figure out that puzzle, you're going to succeed, because you're going to be having fun doing it, and you're going to learn and grow and find the ways that work. So yeah, I think that this, I'm excited about these next couple of years, even more so than I was about this big run up that we've had over the last two.
Yeah, I agree with you. I am too. And speaking of excited, it's a good segue into kind of coming down the home stretch here. We're good. When this airs, we're going to be 2 weeks out from the National. I know you're going. Until about 4 weeks ago, I wasn't sure, and I am going. It's always a great time. I call it, the Super Bowl of the hobby. Kind of your thoughts leading up into National, just kind of I've said on my show, I know you've said this is, we even talked a little bit before we hit the live button here. This is probably going to be one of those all-time Nationals in terms of presence, new companies, new corporations in the corporate area, probably a lot of new people this will be their first National. It's sort of going to be just so many things at play, and just seeing people's eyes light up. I even my first, as someone who's been in the hobby a long time, before they went to their first one, what I thought it was, and what it actually was once I got there were really two different things. I mean, how do you see, just kind of putting on our predictive caps? I think it's going to be a National for all time, with last year's Atlantic City being canceled as well. That's a factor. People are chomping at the bit to get back to this event. It's been 2 years. When you hear like it's been, you think 1 year. It's actually 2 years from when the last National occurred. Kind of how you see this National going, sort of your predictive caps, on it.
Yeah, I am interested to see how the National plays out this year. I think, like you said, from an attendance perspective, there's no doubt that this is going to be one of, if not the most attended National. I mean, I've only been to two in the past, both previous of the most recent Chicago Nationals are the ones that I've been to, but I don't remember, especially a month out, I don't remember VIP tickets selling out and the 5-day passes not being available anymore. At the point now where it's single day only tickets that are available. And that's been the case at least 3 weeks out from the event. I think there's going to be a lot of foot traffic coming through those doors. It's going to be interesting to see how much of that translates into transacting, buying and selling, right? You and I have talked, one of the best parts about going to the National is getting to see and meet up with other people and have some of those conversations. I'm wondering how much of that attendance is going to be more of the social or the interacting, the friends meeting up and going out to dinner and hanging out versus going with an intent to buy. I think there's a lot of people who maybe have their carry case or whatnot of a shoebox full of cards that they want to take in and potentially offload or sell to some of the vendors. And I'm wondering how many people are going to be looking to sell things that they've been accumulating over the last year versus buying new things, right? And so I think while the attendance is going to be a record, I'm not sure where we'll be from a sales volume perspective. The other big difference, that we're going to see is the DA, Blowout, Steel City. That the National used to be a place that you could come and load up on all of these sealed wax, things that you may not have bought. Sealed wax is still pretty high, right? We're not, I was buying racing prism boxes for $10 a box or $15 a box, something like that. People were buying clearance type stuff in the past. That whole dynamic has changed. We don't know if there's going to be a Panini VIP party. They used to use that as a way to sell $10,000 to $20,000 worth of merchandise to some of these hobby shops and vendors. to move the stuff that's not moving. Well, they don't really have an issue moving sealed wax at this point over the last couple of years. So dynamics like that we've seen in the past are going to be completely different this year. And we don't know what that's going to translate to from a mood or a feel on the floor.
Yeah, all great points. I'm definitely looking to see how these all play out. You like you said, there may be more social interactions than transactions. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but I want to talk about our new website. We have a new website. We finally own our own domain name. We were kind of using a WordPress account before. Nothing wrong with that, but bucked up, as I like to say, and got my own domain name. So you can find the website now at www.sportscardnationpodcast, obviously all one word, sportscardnationpodcast.com. www.sportscardnation.com. We are back with Mike Sommer. Going to the, speaking of the Dallas show that I went to about a month ago, I love content creation, as do you. We're part of it, but walking around, it's like I felt like I was walking into multiple movie sets with all these tripods, and I like nothing against them, that they're, as I've said on Sports Card Nation here, content creation's work. It's not easy. You're putting in time and effort. There's a lot of smart and creative people that do it, but someone who did their first show in 1987, when before social media like we know it today, it's just a weird, just walking that show floor. I'm in this camera view. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm just walking the show. But there's 10, 12 of these things. It's like almost like feeling like paparazzi. Like no matter what corner you turn, there's a camera. And to me, the show, it's like, hey, yeah, there's a transaction. Like I don't know if all that needs to be videotaped. Maybe, I know guys are videotaping, hey, I'm buying this deal, and I get it, and I get, part of me gets it, and then the old school old man part of me is like, why do everything on this floor have to be like documented? It's not rocket science, a card show, right? You buy, you sell, you trade. There's not people at on car dealerships videotaping all like the car deals, and I just, again, it's a different, maybe not the greatest comparison, but it's always interesting. And now, like you said, sold out, first time ever, single tickets only. You're going to have this influx of people, new people, and there's going to be probably no shortages of these live footage. You ever see maybe a time where a promoter maybe says, hey, like, I'm all for content creation, but I don't want 50 cameras on my show when people are trying to buy cards that aren't doing content creation. You think we're going to see, this is sort of looking down the line where maybe a show promoter puts his foot down and says, man, I love what you guys are doing, but you're sort of taking away from the dealers who are paying for a table. You're sort of creating sort of log jams and inconveniences. And I'm not knocking the folks that do this. I watch some of it. It just seems to like it's just been like over the top in the last year. Just some of your thoughts. You can tell me like you're nuts, John, or whatever, however you want to respond. But your take is someone that's been in the hobby from early days before we had that to where we are today.
Yeah, I think whether it is at one of these shows or just in general, there's a lot of hobby content that's being created, right? It's exploded. You were doing podcasting before I was, and I was a fairly recent addition in the last year and a half, but there's been even more, podcasts, video shows, YouTube shows, Instagram live feeds, all of those types of things that have come up. Some of them are very good and some of them are very helpful, and others aren't, I guess maybe is the best way to say that, right? And I think the same thing when you think about some of these shows, right? There's one aspect and maybe the way that some of this videoing and live streaming and things happened earlier on, it was done with the intent to help connect the people that weren't there to what this experience might be like and what this experience is like and what are the types of things that you can see. And I think that's one side of it. But I think there's another side that is almost more exploitation, right? We're doing this just to exploit the situation. You know, there's a few things from, I think it was the Dallas show, where I saw some photos of somebody that took some pictures of somebody doing a live feed or recording their transaction, and the dealer that they were transacting with didn't look like they were all that excited about being a part of that event or being a part of that video. It wasn't something where, hey, let's capture this so we can, celebrate it together. And it was done. I was like, hey, I'm going to video this. I don't care whether you like it or not. And that feels a little bit more like exploitation or exploiting the situation than being educational, building a community around it. And I think for me, that's kind of that dividing line of when is content good, when is content not good. It's good if it's educational, if it's building a community. It's not good if you're just taking advantage of it for pure profit potential.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think, I sort of look at it like a newscast, right? You want to set up, sort of get your shot. Hey, we're live on at the Dallas show. We're live at the Chicago National. But like these guys are like doing like the 3-4 hours. They just walk in the whole room. The camera sort of never turns off. I think what I might do in Chicago, Mike, I don't know if you want to join me, wear shirts for our shows and just try to get in as many of these live camera streams, just like video bomb everything, like Source Foundation, Westpac Hero, just ruin. I don't want to say ruin, but get in as many of these. Like there's that Sommer Newman guy again. Jesus, yep. What are they doing? Just spend the whole day. I'm going to be there 5 days anyway. One day it's just going to be video bomb and on behalf of
That's funny. That is
funny. So you in?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll definitely be wearing my Wax Pack Hero shirt. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you there, obviously, and again, and some of the stuff we talked about, seeing how it sort of plays out. Maybe I'm sure we'll talk again, maybe even afterwards, and on some of the stuff we've seen and how it all goes down. So, but with that being said, Mike, thanks for coming back on. Too long between visits, but better late than never. So,
yeah, thanks again. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun having the conversation.
Thanks, Mike. In the haste of recording, I was doing 2 or 3 different things that morning, interviews and shows. I didn't have Mike give out his credentials where you can find them, if you already don't know, but it's very easy. It's waxpackhero.com. Or if you Google, like Sports Card Nation, if you Google Wax Pack Hero, all his stuff will come up. And if you're not already following or listening to the show, I don't know what you're doing. Go check what he does out. It's great stuff. And now, some of our social media credentials.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoy the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
That's a wrap for episode 136. First off, thank you out there in the hobbyverse who download and listen to this show. For without you, there's no us, and I don't lose that train of thought at any point or any day, and I'm very appreciative of this fact. I enjoy doing the show, and you out there make that possible. Obviously, sponsors and the guests as well. Speaking of guests, thank you to Mike Sommer for coming on and talking about kind of what we both do and all the stuff sort of behind the scenes as well, and looking forward to connecting with him, not for the first time, but at the National again as well. We met in 2019, also, by the way, in Chicago. So looking forward to reconnecting there. New website for the show. We got our finally, we're operating on a WordPress account with the NAT extension, and we went to and got our own domain name. Can't even say it, but got our own domain name and new location, same great content. It's www. And it's the show name, Sports Card Nation Podcast, all one word, sportscardnationpodcast.com. So www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. We got the new release schedule. We got our hobbyist of the month up there. We obviously have every episode is on the webpage, and you can search by guest. So if you go to guest at the very bottom, hit guest, it lists everyone that's been on the show in alphabetical order. And if you click their name, it actually shows you what episodes they appeared on. So, for example, today's guest, Mike Sommer, if you go to the guest section on the bottom of the homepage, click that, then go to the M's, find Mike Sommer, click on Mike, and all 3 episodes he's appeared on will highlight on the screen, and you can click on any one of them and listen to them, whichever one. And that's kind of a neat little feature. I wrote a blog for the first time in I don't know when, long time, and about Shohei. Check that out. It's on the site. Again, new release calendar is on there. Hobbyist of the month. All our episodes, homepage. Some news will be on that front page as well, and sponsor page. And by the way, our sponsor page has direct links to all our sponsors' web pages, and if they're offering you a discount code, it will also be right there, so you know what the code is to save some money. That's always a nice thing, and going to add to it as we go along. It's always going to be work in progress, but really sort of finally kind of have our own page, if you will. We always had a page, but it really feels like we're sort of home. If kind of cheesy, but we have our own domain. So that's nice, and so look for that site to involve as we go along. And so we're gonna wrap it up there, and we'll see you next week with Emily Kless from Tops. Take care, and always remember, the hobby is the people.